Hi, it's Nero here from Investment Rise, and in this video I want to talk about what the Royal Commission could mean for you and I as investors. You see, because we've seen a lot in the media about what's come out of the Royal Commission, particularly with relation to banks and unfortunately to mortgage brokers, right? So let's look at the good news from the Royal Commission for us as investors. The good news is that the Royal Commission is not advocating, has not recommended that property investors continue to be the scapegoat for property and high property prices in Sydney and Melbourne and some of the other states as well. That's the good news. There are no recommendations to tighten lending standards against investors. Apparently the work done by APRA has been good enough, and I'm starting to see even now some banks even loosen the lending standards for investors because it's had such a detrimental impact. So I think that's going to be good news in that there's going to be no worsening of things, at least from a lending perspective, as a result of what's come out of the Royal Commission. But the real scapegoats that I believe have unfortunately been suffering as a result, or will suffer as a result of the Royal Commission, are mortgage brokers. Now, yes, like in every industry, there are unscrupulous people. Mortgage brokers are no different, but neither is it. It's the same case with lawyers and accountants and whatever industry you look at. There's always going to be unscrupulous people, yes. However, what I find is the majority of mortgage brokers are really good at what they do. And if you're a serious property investor, if you're someone who's committed to creating wealth through property, creating a property portfolio that's going to help sustain you in your later years and maybe even allow you to leave something for your children, you need to have a team of professionals around you. One of the things, if you've seen any of my past videos, I always talk about property investing is a team sport, and you need to have the right team around you. And a good mortgage broker has been critical for so many of my clients' success and my success as well. Why? Well, because number one, if you go to your local bank, or your bank that maybe you have the mortgage on your home with, if they don't necessarily give you the loan or give you the loan that you need, a mortgage broker could potentially look at other lenders and get you the loan that you need. Or, for example, you may go to one bank and they may not give you what you want, and a mortgage broker is able to shop around. In fact, I've got an example right now with a client whose lender did not give them the loan amount that they wanted for investment property. And so I was able to refer them to a good mortgage broker who then is able to get them the loan that they need, and they're now able to kickstart their investing journey. So a mortgage broker is really good from that perspective. Secondly, one of the key things that I often talk about is that wherever possible, keep the lender on your home separate from the lender on your investment properties. Okay, so that way the two properties are not connected, at least in the back end, and that your bank doesn't have control over both of them. But the moment you start dealing with more than one lender, either you've got to do a lot more work or you're going to need someone's assistance. Again, that would be a mortgage broker. And thirdly, and this is a big thing that a lot of people haven't understood for quite some time, is that when banks are assessing the loan, they may approve the loan initially based on your borrowing capacity, but then they want to do what they call a lender's valuation. And a lender's valuation has virtually nothing to do with the purchase price, right? Here's proof. A client of mine recently wanted to buy a property. The purchase price was $465,000. The first lender valued that property at $385,000. Yes, it's $80,000 below the purchase price. The second lender valued the property at $420,000. That's $45,000 below the purchase price. But the third lender that they went to valued the property at the purchase price, at the same price they were paying for it. So how can this be? How can three lenders value the same property within a 7-day period, and the difference between the valuations be nearly $80,000 on a $465,000 purchase price? It's nearly 20% variance, right? The reason is because every bank has their own risk criteria. And so some banks, for example, don't want to lend any more in a particular suburb. For example, they may only want to have, say, 100 loans by the end of this month. And you might be Mr. and Mrs. 102 in that particular suburb. And they just don't want to lend any more in that month based on their risk criteria or whatever else. So then the easiest thing for them to do is to just undervalue the property. Okay, I've seen this happen time and time again. So one of the things I always say is that if you have a mortgage broker, you can literally say, okay, I want to buy this property. I've done my research, and now you go and get me the best deal. Get me the bank who's happy to give me the loan in that particular area that we're going to buy in. But now that's going to become harder, right? That service used to be free, mind you, but now you may have to pay for it, especially if there's a change of government at our upcoming federal elections. So what I can see happening for us as investors as a result of the Royal Commission is that it's going to be harder to separate your loans. It's going to be harder to stay in control. Why? Because either you're going to have to do more work, or you're just going to end up going to one bank, maybe two, and sort of copying what you get from them. All right, so I think as investors, as a result of the Royal Commission, the good news is, yes, you can borrow, yes, you can continue to build your portfolio, but there's going to be more work involved from you. You're going to have to knock on more doors from a banking perspective to get the loans. You may have to pay for a mortgage broker if that law comes into place. But either way, yes, it's going to be harder for investors from a perspective of doing more legwork. However, the opportunities are still there if you're willing to put in the work, have the right team around you, and I really believe that we're now going to see some great opportunities, as we have for the last few months, for people who want to invest for capital growth and really good rental returns. So all in all, the Royal Commission, no real bad news for us, but yes, a bit more hard work for us as investors. Hope this helps. Bye for now.